December 1940. Berlin. A cold draft slips through the marble corridors of the Reich Chancellery. A massive map covers the table. Europe sliced into zones of conquest. Red arrows, blue defenses, black divisions drawn with obsessive precision. And at the center of it all stands one dictator, Adolf Hitler, staring east toward the Soviet Union with the fixed, feverish gaze of a man convinced history is bending toward him. And by the end of this video, you might question everything you thought you knew about WW2. Because when you strip away the myths and look at the cold mechanics of power, economics, logistics, dictators, empires, the story changes. If you crave history that cuts deeper than battles and generals, hit subscribe. Now, before we go any further, let's set the rules. What stays the same? The timeline, the armies, the geography. Only the choices change. Now imagine this. What if Hitler had focused everything, every tank, every plane, every ounce of industrial strength, into one colossal strike against the USSR? No North Africa, no Balkan distractions, no premature war in the Atlantic, just a single, overwhelming invasion designed to break Stalin's regime before it could rise to power and resist. Could that decision have changed the war? June 22, 1941. Operation Barbarossa begins. Germany unleashes 3.3 million troops, 3,350 tanks, 2,770 aircraft, and over 7,000 artillery pieces. It is the largest land invasion in human history. The Nazi regime believes the Soviet Union will collapse in 10 weeks. Hitler boasts that he only has to kick in the door. But here's the twist. This was not even Germany's full strength. Over 600,000 German troops remained stuck in France, Norway, and the Low Countries. Another 150,000 fought in North Africa under Rommel. Nearly 1 million more were tied down in garrisons and occupation forces. And the Luftwaffe was split between the Mediterranean, the English Channel, and the vast Eastern Front. What if all of that had been redirected east? Before answering, let's examine a crucial moment. April 1941. Hitler invades Yugoslavia and Greece. This campaign delays Barbarossa by 5 critical weeks. 5 weeks that transform dry roads into bottomless mud, and autumn mud into the killing winter of 1941. The diversion burns fuel, drains manpower, and costs time the Wehrmacht cannot afford. Without the Balkan campaign, Barbarossa launches in early May. The roads are firm, the weather clear, the Soviet defenses even more unprepared. Would Moscow have fallen? Look at the real timeline. By early December 1941, German advance units reached just 15-25 kilometers from the outskirts of Moscow. Soldiers could see the city's glow on the winter horizon. Soviet panic was real. Stalin prepared evacuation trains. Government archives confirmed the regime was on the edge of collapse. But temperatures plummeted to 30 degrees Celsius. Engines froze. Weapons jammed. Frostbite crippled thousands. German summer uniforms became lethal. Now imagine those same divisions arriving in October, not December. No frozen weapons. No Siberian reinforcements yet. No fully mobilized Soviet defenses. Could they have taken the Soviet capital? Perhaps. But capturing Moscow is not the same as winning the war. Let's break down the reality. Germany attacked on a broad front. Leningrad, Moscow, and Ukraine simultaneously. Hitler believed in grabbing everything at once: food, resources, prestige cities. His generals hated it. Heinz Guderian begged the dictator to focus on Moscow. "We are scattering our forces," he warned. "Moscow must be the primary objective." But Hitler didn't listen. He redirected tanks south toward Ukraine in August 1941, delaying the advance on the capital. This is where the alternative path becomes most powerful. If those tanks stayed with Army Group Center, historians debate whether Moscow could have fallen by September. At that moment, Soviet defenses were thin. 70,000 to 90,000 men, many without rifles, scrambling to dig trenches. Stalin's purges had shattered the officer corps. Communication was chaos. The Red Army was reeling from catastrophic losses. Over 3 million soldiers captured in the first 4 months. A concentrated punch might have broken the Soviet center. But even if it did, what next? Here's where economics and logistics crush the fantasy. Germany invaded the Soviet Union with a modern facade built on ancient infrastructure. Of the entire invasion force, only a fraction was fully motorized. The Wehrmacht relied on 600,000 horses for transport. Fuel shortages began within weeks. Tires disintegrated. Trucks failed. And the farther they advanced, the longer and thinner the supply lines stretched. And beneath all of this lay geography itself. The USSR wasn't a country. It was a continent. Even if Moscow fell, the Soviet state planned to retreat to the Volga and the Urals. Stalin even drafted orders to relocate the government to Kuyabyshev. Also, and this is crucial, between July and November 1941, the Soviets relocated more than 1,500 factories eastward, beyond German reach. Entire industrial cities packed onto trains. Machines, workers, families, moving day and night until the industrial core of the USSR reappeared in the east. Could an earlier German attack have prevented this? Maybe, but no one knows for sure. What about diplomacy? If Hitler avoided war with Britain and kept the West quiet, could the US have stayed out longer? Without the Battle of the Atlantic, without Hitler declaring war on America on December 11, 1941, would Roosevelt have delayed intervention? Some scholars argue yes. With no Atlantic War and no U-boat campaign, U.S. entry might have been postponed. Others argue that an authoritarian empire consuming Eastern Europe would eventually force American involvement anyway. But even without the U.S., Germany faced another nightmare: Soviet manpower. The USSR mobilized 14 million soldiers during the war. Even after catastrophic losses, new armies appeared like waves. Could Germany really grind down a nation with double its population, triple its territory, and unmatched depth? Now we reach the final question. Could Hitler have won by concentrating everything against the USSR? Let's look at the alternate world one last time. No Africa Corps, no Balkan delay, no Battle of Britain escalation, no Atlantic War. Instead, a single monstrous thrust, 4 million troops, 4,000 tanks, 3,000 aircraft, aimed directly at Moscow in May 1941. Would it change the outcome? It could bring Germany closer to victory. It could capture Moscow. It might even force Stalin to flee or fracture the Soviet command. But winning the entire war? Conquering, occupying, and holding a nation stretching from the Baltic to Siberia? That is something completely different. German logistics break. German manpower drains. German fuel runs out. German industry falls behind. And winter, Russia's most loyal general, always arrives on time. Hitler could change tactics. He could shift divisions. He could pick a clearer target. But what he could never change was the scale of the enemy he chose. In the end, the question reveals a deeper truth. Sometimes dictators lose not because of a single mistake, but because their ambition is larger than their empire can sustain. If you want more deep dives into dictators, geopolitics, secret documents, and the brutal mechanics of power, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what alternate scenario you want next.